Hey guys, happy Monday. Today I'd like to create this video to share my updates on a Bitcoin mining company, CORZ Scientific. CORZ is the ticker. Now, most of you have been asking about what my thoughts are for CORZ Scientific, so I wanted to provide this update to give you a deep dive analysis from a share price standpoint, going into the technicals and the fundamental analysis, as well as just touching on the overall news updates, as well as market sentiment with the price of Bitcoin and how all of the different Bitcoin mining companies perform today. So we'll go into all those details. Now, if you're new to this channel, I would really appreciate you hitting the like, subscribing to All I See Is W for more related content. Thanks, guys. Let's begin. Now, first off, just today, with the start of the stock market open, a lot of the Bitcoin miners started underperforming and it was up until the price of Bitcoin started going up. However, we saw that the Bitcoin price, it plummeted close to about 94,000, 93,000, and that is really what drove a lot of these Bitcoin miner companies' share prices down today, except for Mara. However, we saw all of the different Bitcoin miners like CleanSpark, Riot, Core Scientific, which we'll be touching on, Bitfarms. A lot of these Bitcoin miners today underperformed, as well as MicroStrategy. Most of you are wondering, will this continue in the days ahead before Thanksgiving, given the fact that Bitcoin is trying to break through that wall of $100,000? Let's begin by looking at the price of Core Scientific. Now, what we're looking at is a 6 month chart here. So going back to June of this year, we saw that the price of Core Scientific was hovering at the high $4. Within a 6 month range, it's gone up by about 275% gain. Core Scientific has been a workhorse just over the last 6 months. Its share price has appreciated over the course of time. As you can see, the 52-week range is $2.61, hovered up to its all-time high within the 52-week range of $18.51. A lot of what we see currently is priced in. We'll go more into detail about the company's strategy with high power computing, as well as just Bitcoin mining and the data centers that they have. But I think that overall, when you compare Core Scientific to all of the different Bitcoin miners, the reason why Core Scientific is one of the leading horse right now within the Bitcoin miner community is because of the branding as well as their business model with the Bitcoin mining, as well as tapping into the artificial intelligence, data mining capabilities. Now, most of you are wondering, is CORZ going to continue to go up? I mean, we haven't seen like a drastic spike upward. It's been consistently going up from month to month. And just looking at it from a 1 year range here, it's gone up by about 226%. Let's look at it from a 1 month perspective. It shot up 32% within 6 months, close to about 300% gains. Now, the question is, if you compare it to all of the different miners like Mara, CleanSpark, Riot, Bitfarm, Iron, will there still be the same performance in terms of share price gains moving forward? I like to really just look at technicals, especially when a company's share price has reached its all-time high, whether the steam may be blowing off or will Core Scientific continue to go up. Now, what I do want to see is how Core Scientific will perform in the month of December. I feel like if Core Scientific is able to break through the $21 zone, which we haven't seen, I think that that's really going to test the share price. And once it can break through the 21.50, I think we can start seeing the carryover into the new year, whether CORZ can start appreciating with its share price. A lot of these Bitcoin miners haven't really performed yet. We've seen MicroStrategy, the share price has gone up so much, and congratulations to those who've made a lot of money on MicroStrategy. And most of you are wondering, is it, like a sell high, buy low within these Bitcoin miners? So a lot of people are like scratching their heads trying to see whether it makes sense to circulate their profits, take profits and start incorporating into these Bitcoin miner plays because a lot of these companies have been lagging. However, with Core Scientific, share price has been appreciating here. So that is one of the risk factors that we see, especially with the share price just doing so well over the course of the 6 month duration. But that does not mean that Core Scientific's share price will not go up any further. Now, let's just go more into the detail of who's holding Core Scientific right now. So you see here 61% of shares owned by Core Scientific would be institutional owners, and the difference would be what the executive team owns as well as retail investors like us. Now, you see here with active positions, there's 193 holders where there's increased hedging going on here, where decreased positions, it's at 70. So that just tells you that there's just an increased load with institutional investors holding on and buying more and more Core Scientific share price. You see here, BlackRock, I mean, it was reported that they've increased their shares by close to about 24%. Barrel Capital Management acquiring 14 million shares now with the change of 85%. So they bought around the time when it was at a not so much of a high price, but you see here Vanguard also increasing their load close to about 29%. So that's equivalent to 12 million shares. So a lot of money is being invested here, and most of us retail investors, if we follow how the institutional investors apply their strategy, we may likely be at the winning situation towards the end of the year, heading into the new year. So that's good news just looking at this information. Now let's just take a look at what the company is currently doing just overall with the press releases. So as of November 20th, about 5 days ago, CORZ Scientific announces approval of lease amendments with the city of Denton to enable HPC expansion. So we know that Denton has been home to one of the most advanced data centers, and that's why the CEO, Adam Sullivan, decided to really tap into unlocking the potential for the largest GPU supercomputers in North America to be based out in the area of Oklahoma. And they're really trying to position themselves to expand, build on their HPC core capabilities to add value around the community, to advance innovation and technology. And we know that with Core Scientific, they're trying to improve their branding. In fact, they are partnering up with NVIDIA's, purchasing their products to add value in what they're focused on when it comes to HPC technology. And that's not even for the mining capabilities yet. So that is just looking very good over the course of the long run. We know that Core Scientific operates 9 data centers in all the different states. That's including Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, North Carolina, North Dakota, and Texas. And they are now trying to develop this data center in Oklahoma. So a lot of what we will see in the balance sheet, we'll go through that in detail, is the incurred costs for setting up these data centers to deploy into the different regions. However, a lot of the return on investments will start coming as all of this is paid off with the cost expenditures for one-time setup, and the positive return on cash flow will start coming in, especially for the HPC capability. Just looking at Core Scientific's announcement early November regarding October 2024 production and operational updates, we see here 369 Bitcoins mined in the month of October. That's improvement from the last month where September it was about 345 Bitcoins mined. Hosting Bitcoin earned by customers, we see at 52. So a slight reduction from the last month here. In terms of Bitcoin sold, they sold 370 Bitcoins. It's going to be interesting to see how the next month plays out, like just especially with the price of Bitcoin. Will Core Scientific apply the HODL approach, or will they continue to mine, sell Bitcoin, set up their infrastructure for HPC technology, as well as increasing their hash rate to mine at a faster throughput? So it's definitely looking like Core Scientific is increasing their throughput while also tapping into the HPC technology, which is going to be setting Core Scientific as one of the leaders in the digital infrastructure, not only for Bitcoin mining, but high performance computing. So that's huge news here. And as of the end of the month, the company operated 185,000 Bitcoin miners in all the data centers for self-mining and hosting, with a total energized hash rate of 21.8 exahash. Now, let's just take a quick look at the announcement of their fiscal third quarter 2024 results. So, nothing new here. We've seen the similar theme with other Bitcoin miners, for example, like with Mara, with Riot, Bitfarm, where most of these companies incurred a net loss. And I would say that this would all be attributed to the post-halving event that took place in April. These post-halving events take place once every 4 years, where the cost of mining Bitcoin would go up by double in price. So that's not uncommon to see that. However, in Q4, we should see better financial data, especially with the price of Bitcoin appreciating and exahash growing at Core Scientific. Most of the operating loss, I would say, is attributed to the incurred costs setting up the data centers. So you'll see a lot of that information in the balance sheet, especially just with getting all of the different sites up and running, increasing the megawatts. So it's nice to see how Core Scientific building looks like here. Kind of reminds me of Riot Platform's overall setup, but they have a net loss here of 455 million, an increase of 414 million over third quarter 2023. As we look more into just the balance sheet, I would say that it's good that we see the total assets increasing here. So you see that cash and cash equivalents has increased. We're seeing accounts receivable increase for the service that's provided. So that's a good thing that we see on the balance sheet. Uh, Accounts payable, we see a reduction compared to last year, which is what we would want to see. Total liabilities, I would say here, this is the key number here, right? I mean, especially if you see a drastic, significant increase. I mean, it's just, I would say, not too significant of an increase here. So that's what's expected with total liabilities. But then again, because Core Scientific is setting up their business model for HPC advancement, it's expected to see the liabilities increase here. So all in all, we see revenue coming from HPC. We see digital asset hosted mining revenue coming in from customers. Overall, gross loss profit, we're seeing more profit loss in this quarter, but ultimately that's really driven from the incurred costs setting up their company. But when you look at it into the future, I think that with Core Scientific, they're really going to start getting a big positive return on cash flow with their digital asset self-mining, as well as the digital asset hosted mining segment, along with the HPC hosting segment, including the Bitcoin mining. So all these different variables will come into play as like passive income for the company. So that is why I would say the share price is doing so well. It's all priced in. Today, even though Bitcoin dropped a bit, I mean, it ended the market at, 0.66%. You compare that to other companies like Iron, um, CleanSpark, Riot, Bitfarms. It held up pretty good here, although aftermarket, which I wouldn't really factor in, isn't performing as good here. But we'll see. Most of you are wondering, is now a time to buy? How high will Core Scientific go? But ultimately, I think that there's room for it to start appreciating even further. And I think that that 3x potential is there for a company like Core Scientific with its high quality strategy, tapping into increased throughput with Bitcoin mining and setting up for success for its HPC business platform. So there you go. That's my analysis. I hope that you found that helpful. I'd love to hear what your perspective is. So please make sure to provide your questions, comments down below. Thanks, guys.